There is a ripple formation on the North Pole of Mars that could only form from a spinning current of heavy fluid, and this area was once under its ancient ocean. Now, I originally thought that it must have been driven by the polar easterlies, but after some more research, I think it was actually from a polar vortex. They seem very similar, but they are actually very different. The polar easterlies are surface winds that are a part of a convection cell. They spin to the east due to the planet rotating underneath them as they travel southward. But a polar vortex is in the stratosphere, 3 to 10 miles from the surface, and it doesn't spin due to the Coriolis effect. Instead, it is driven by temperature-caused pressure differences. Because this drives it, they can spin with or against the planet's rotation. Earth's polar vortex usually spins against it. But these polar vortices can be very messy, and they almost always have a minor vortex attached to them that spins in the opposite direction. I actually captured this type of motion when a river current collided with an ocean wave. The stratosphere behaves the same way when its currents collide. So when a polar vortex reverses, it's just when the minor vortex outgrows the major one, so it's not a big deal. Now let's go back to Mars. The major vortex is easy to spot. Its eye was at the center of this ripple formation, which is exactly centered around the true north of Mars. We know this was the center because ripples tend to form perpendicular to a current. Okay, so where's the minor vortex? I'll let you take a moment. Its center was right about here. This is indicated based upon this massive berm of its perimeter, just like how this river example also makes a berm. So it's likely that its eye traveled like this to make such a berm shape. When we zoom in, we find ripples perpendicular to the berm in several places. And then we can find drumlins parallel with the berm. These are the two main features of fluid motion, and they both agree with the current of the minor vortex running along the berm. Now there's a few other notable berms on this North Pole. But we can also see from this photo that there's a whole circular berm on the entire North Pole of Mars. That's from when the polar vortex dominated and there was barely a minor vortex. I would suggest that the polar vortex moved water currents on the planet, since water is so much more capable of forming huge features compared to less dense gases. There was a much smaller ocean on the South Pole of Mars, and that is why the ripple formation of the South Pole is much smaller than that of the North Pole, and doesn't have any large berms.